And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And today we're going to talk about Season 4, Episode 10 of Attack on Titan. We do this every week. We're anime-only watchers. We've never read the manga, so we don't know about anything that's coming. Usually we're just going to start off here with a quick recap of the whole episode, and then we'll talk about all of our favorite moments from this week's episode. Before we do that, though, I want to give a big shout out to @Lumions on Instagram. That's LOOMIONS. This is where we got the kick-ass thumbnail for this week's episode that you're looking at. I think he called it "When It All Began." It's
really good.
Very season
cool.
1.
Very
fan
cool,
art.
man.
Yeah, man, I love this one. I love like the forced perspective or the color change cutting across Aaron's face, and there's all these neat little details in the corners of it. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start right off here. Season 4, Episode 10, A Sound Argument. 2 years in the past, Zeke brokers an introduction between Parody Island and the nation of Hizuru. Madame Azumabito proposes a long-term plan to keep the island safe until they can protect themselves in modern society. However, Hizuru's assistant comes with a price tag of Parody's natural resources. Hizuru refuses to introduce Parody to other nations, and Hanji decides the scout regiment will have to find some alternative.
Back in the present, Eren lashes out at Hanji, and his behavior concerns his closest friends and colleagues. It's revealed that Historia is pregnant, which is delaying the transfer of Zeke's Beast Titan to her out of concern that the process could harm her or her unborn child.
All right.
Yeah.
Weird episode.
Really weird.
Yeah. A little, we've talked about how pacing has been great, or I've mentioned, pacing has been so dope this whole season. This one felt weird.
Came to a halt. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was very...
Stuff happened and then also not.
Yeah, so honestly, what was said and what was seen in the episode all makes sense. There's a couple weird moments. I actually was legitimately confused, and I've watched it 3 times at this point, and I'm still not even sure. It just seemed weird, kind of structurally, the way some conversations went.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is it's just the animation.
Dude,
there was not 2 shots in this episode that had the same style of art or animation. It was like every scene as it went from one to the other. It was like it was watching a completely different, not a different studio, but clearly a different style of art from beginning to end. And it was honestly, it was kind of hard to watch at points.
Yeah, the latter half of the episode, basically while they're outside making that railroad, I was like, is this a different show? What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, even the scene, the opening scene of Eren with his hair up and kind of his frame of his body looked completely different too, and the height, I don't know, it's it was just weird. The faces, again, there's some time jumping a little bit. I know they're supposed to look younger, but even then, it looks like there's one point Mikasa's head, the shape of her head is just completely different.
Dude,
Pixis, not facial structures, but just the shape of her head. It's
Pixis has a Megamind moment in this episode,
yeah,
where his whole brain looks like it's fucking swelling.
I do think from that, I know the exact moment you're talking about. I think that was from an above view, kind of looking down at an angle.
But I was weird.
No, I know. It's I see what they were trying to do, but yeah, no, not a bad episode. But
no,
weird.
it was good and it had great moments, but I agree with you. It was jarring. It took me out of it a couple of times. I was like, this just looks weird.
Yeah.
I'm I guess, in terms of theories, all I really got there is maybe the schedule was catching up to Mappa. From what I've heard, they had a pretty aggressive schedule to get these episodes done. So
yeah, you had mentioned that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe that results in some inconsistencies, which that isn't, a huge leap of faith. That kind of makes sense to me.
No, and we're here talking about it, and from the beginning of the season, at no point am I docking the show on animation. I think overall history, looking back on the show, this might be one of the big things people look back on. But in the moment, I really don't care. I'm here for the story and set pieces and moments. But this, I've ignored some of the awkward Titan stuff so far, and I know some of the hair and hand movements have been strange. This was just, I don't know, it was weird. It was moment to moment. It was just you couldn't, no one art style was continuously used, I found, and it was just strange.
Yeah. It was an odder one too, because it was, a significantly tamer episode with slower pacing. And when you just have people talking in rooms, it's easy for your mind to wander.
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
like when it's just dialogue and stuff, like it's easy to be like, why does he look weird when when he's just standing? Like there's so little action on the screen that I feel like mistakes show a little bit faster, if that makes, or easier, if that makes sense. Like in an action scene, you're definitely not there to pick up all the details and all the tiny mistakes. But when it's like a oneer and characters are only their mouths are moving, but even then they still look weird. It just it shines through. Okay. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Yeah. No, I agreed.
Opens on Aaron and Hanji having a little conversation. That was a strong opening to the show, I thought, or a strong opening to the episode.
Very weird. I guess like pacing within the moment, like hearing, like just like kind of Hanji showing up and observing like the, Aaron's lines in this, in this scene is the, the fight, just like her, it was honestly like I wasn't a huge fan in this scene, if I'm being honest.
So it didn't land for you?
No, because like in the previous episode, there's the scene on the beach, and like she kind of has like a similar antic, like her being her. Mm-hmm. I just barely bought it then.
Right.
Her kind of like, but again, that I bought it maybe more because it was like a very tense situation. Like there was kind of a lot on the line. Mm-hmm. This was more of like a reserved moment and kind of her just like jumping into it. It kind of felt like a little, I know she thinks fast and she acts fast and, she, mm-hmm. That's always, been her thing. That's her character. So she was true to herself. But even then I felt it was way too fast.
Yeah. I don't
you know
disagree.
What I mean?
The whole, they created a good contrast with Hanji like fucking with him more or less.
Yeah.
Being her, and then the only time Aaron responds is like he's like yelling. So they did it. I thought like it worked in terms of like there was a contrast where she's not taking this too seriously, or at least she appears to be having fun with him, and he's not really having it.
Yeah.
But it was weird. I don't disagree. Like part of me is like, this would have been a much more effective scene if it was Levi on the other side of the cage and they were just showing one another's hand.
I think even if it was just slowed down a little bit, because the best moments in this scene is when, Hanji, like she makes the reference to another thing, but I'm not sure if it's now or if it's later in the episode, same moment in time, but mm-hmm. she kind of makes reference to like, oh, when I first met you,
we stayed up all night talking about Titans.
And, like that was, maybe that's like a moment of nostalgia, so it's easier to kind of like accept and acknowledge as a viewer. But like when she was slowed down and they were kind of conversing, when she was just talking at him, I was like, wow, like this is not what I want. Like I wanted, obviously Aaron's not really in a state of mind to really, revealing his cards and kind of getting down to it. And this episode kind of does a good job of showing like there is more behind what Aaron's doing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's a theory, and we're going to get to that, but...
Yeah. The next thing is, and you just made me think of something, because the next scene is, like, another jump back to the past. This whole episode, the last couple, I think, have been back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Present 3 years into the past, and now we're present 2 years in the past. Maybe we'll get present 1 year in the past next. I don't know.
I'm guessing that's what they're doing.
They're catching us up, which, to be fair, is what we wanted, and it is working.
Because it makes sense, because at the end of the episode, they reveal that they are going to Marley.
Yeah.
So it would make sense for the past year leading up to the current moments, they would be like doing reconnaissance. So I think that would make sense. I think that's the next logical step for the following episode.
Yeah. So we get this, one of our predictions comes true. Azuma Bito shows up, right?
Oh, we're going to be talking about this, Dave.
Yeah, so real quick, I just want to note, the way this scene starts is Yelena is there. She's like, hey, it's already been a year. The port is set up. I'm honored to work with you. Add this to the reasons or unsettling moments that she's had so far
mm-hmm.
that just make me not trust her, Like, again, she seems to be kind of very intrigued by Aaron. She more or less worships Zeke at this point.
Dave, she's a chartered member of the Church of Jaeger.
Yeah.
Like
she feels like a fucking cultist.
Yeah.
I liked Levi, quote, protecting Aaron, but not really. He's just sort of protecting an asset there.
Yeah.
What it reminded me though is because in this 2 years ago timeline is I hate Aaron's hair so much. it's like you can see that they're slowly aging the cast up. And we go 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and like now we have the cast looking the way they do in the present. It's a good way to kind of showcase the passage of time. Yeah. But maybe that's another reason why it looked weird. Maybe they're like constantly having to draw the same characters in different spaces of time. Like, oh, they're older here, but slightly less old here. I don't know. It just made me
could be true. No, it's like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know like anything about animation, but it's it's. If anything, this moment of his hair does not bother me in the little compared to that man bun he has.
I mean, that was sick. We both agree.
No, I severely disagree.
You have a problem with man buns? I mean,
no, to each their own. But and that was the thing too. Like, how can people even comment on the hair? You can hardly see it. Like the lighting in that scene was so dark. Like I can kind of see his shape, but like you don't get a good look at it. It's it just seemed kind of silly.
So Azumabito shows up, and there's this tattoo / branding reveal on Mikasa.
Yeah.
So, and okay.
Less than graceful lordom.
Yeah. So, yeah, less than graceful lordom. So I was fortunate enough to have some manga folks hit me up on Reddit in a discussion without spoilers, and they basically said in the manga they plant this scene fairly effectively.
Okay.
Or they plant the tattoo thing up effectively in that Mikasa always had a wrist wrap on, like the whole way through.
Sure.
And like for whatever reason, seasons 1 through 3, they just didn't do that. Maybe they didn't realize it was an important detail. Because apparently, like the wrist wrap thing was like actually mentioned at one point in one of the chapters of the manga, but literally like 100 chapters ago. Like it was a very early thing.
Okay.
That is just now getting explained in the manga. But in the fucking anime, this is just completely out of left field.
So I was going to say, this is one of the moments that there's a lot of confusion with Azumabito this episode. And I actually feel like there's a couple moments where I don't know if it's intentionally revealing her shadiness or if it was just a mistake. Like and we'll get to that in a moment, but like very weird. Just the reveal of Eren, like, oh, Mikasa, like, show it, I was like, what? Dude.
This is clumsy. Yeah, it was just weird because, again, like, they've so deftly done such a great job with dialogue and lore dumps. Like, think about the basement reveal. Like, that was handled pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, Mikasa said later on, like, am I being used as pretext? Like, do they actually give a fuck here? So maybe they didn't. I don't know, but it felt weird. Even like you just said, the dialogue that Eren uses, like, "Oh, you should show them. It's like this long thing we've been keeping a secret." It's like, what? You haven't mentioned this once.
Yeah.
Clumsy.
Yeah, very clumsy.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It doesn't. I don't think it explains anything about. It explains her heritage, which like they've hinted at, like the fact she's Oriental. I don't think it explains anything about the Ackermans' abilities. All we know is that they were like a royal bloodline.
Yeah, because they make a point. Because like it almost seems within like in that moment when there's like the reveal of like the wrist tattoo, Azumabito makes reference that like you are the heir.
You're the hope of where the fuck are they from?
Hizuru?
Yeah, you're the hope of Hizuru. That was cool. I was like,
no,
oh,
that
that's
is
a
cool.
Powerful line.
But they make reference to like you are just, or there was someone not. They kind of just made it sound like someone from the nation, not necessarily of, like the royal family or anything like that, and that they were left behind, and then like that was that. But then she follows up saying like you are a direct ancestor of the royal family, and I was like, well, is it one or the other? You know what I mean? Like they, I don't know. It's kind of just the placement of the conversation kind of was a little, again, clumsy, and maybe I read into it just a little too much there. But just Azumabito, weird bird. She really gets weird in this episode.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It just felt very weird. The next thing that really happens is they basically have, the scouts or parody people have a conversation with the Hizuru folk, and they kind of go over their proposal.
Yeah.
it's also revealed, I should mention, that Zeke brokered this introduction. So he's gone out of his way here.
Mm-hmm.
However, this part also, there's a lot to unpack in this quick meeting.
A lot happens.
Yeah, you get like some lore dumps and some motivation dumps very fast. So the first is that Zeke met with them in the past, and there's some special fuel that they use for the ODM gear, and he calls it Iceburst Stone.
Ever heard of it?
Has this ever been mentioned before?
I honestly don't recall.
Did they ever mention anything about the gas for the ODM gear that suggested that it was anything other than like just regular fucking gas?
I've only heard gas, but I think this is also, again, I want to hold on to this because we still have more to talk about that conversation, but I think there's a lot of like both sides are trying to fuck each other over here.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Zeke is trying to pull the wool over Azuma Bito's face. Or, I think he's trying to trick her to get her to help. Because it could just be regular gas, Yeah,
that would be cool. That would make more sense than them actually having a never before heard of mineral that, like, the rest of the world doesn't have.
Like, he's just, like, maybe it's, a mineral. Like, maybe it's something they haven't seen before, but not necessarily of, like, supreme value is, like, they're assuming, because even then, like, Azuma Bito and the Zero, like, they don't know. But I think, I don't know, and like it just reveals like how, and they even say like this meeting's going to go good. Pixis makes a reference, this meeting's going to go great. Yelena said, again, this goes back, Yelena said, but that means Zeke said.
Yeah,
that
they're money grubbers.
They're money grubbers. So it's all seems to be intertwined. Like everyone's just trying to like outfox each other in this meeting, and it doesn't feel like it goes anywhere.
Yeah, and the whole like Azuma Bito like licking her lips at the thought of all the. I mean, it was a little on the nose. It just again, this felt kind of clumsy. This was weird.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I guess we'll just have to see where that goes. Maybe that basically I think what we take out of this is that maybe this alliance doesn't go super far, but we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. We learn a little bit about the plan or their proposal from Zeke's end, and the fact that Hizuru is on board. And the plan is basically this: 3 stages, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get them all together. You do a test run, quote, of the rumbling, which is basically showcasing Parady's power.
Yep.
So I assume that means Eric and Zeke hold hands and go kill some shit.
Sure.
Second stage is that Parady's military has to be strengthened. That's what you need Hizuru for. Right, they're a modern nation. They can probably help with that. And the third is the founding Titan and a Titan of royal blood have to be passed down. So Zeke's Titan and Aaron's Titan have to be passed down because they're both coming up on their term. And they're whoever has royal blood has to bear as many children as possible. Presumably to keep to be able to continue to use the founding Titan's powers, because we're still assuming that Zeke has found a way around the whole curse/vow to not make war type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just about right?
Yeah, I think that's on it there. The testing of the rumbling thing, they make so much reference to the rumbling this episode. Like you could honestly, like if you did like a shot for every time they mentioned the rumbling this episode, like you'd be absolutely slammed by the end of it. By the end of 20 minutes.
That Caroline drinking game.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's and then. Yeah, I don't know. Because the other thing is too that it's the reveal that his hero kind of just gets like unfettered access to this Iceburst stone.
Yes, that's yeah. I should have mentioned that. That is clearly their motivation, right? That's why they want to help.
It's crazy because like at this point, I suppose like it's been 2 years, or no, it's been a year since like Yelena and all them have been involved with the Parody folk, but. Like, is there communication between Zeke and them, or is he just like, no, like, go ahead, do it. Like, you're gonna have that. Like, he seems to be speaking for everyone on Parody.
Yeah, I'm so curious to his play here. Like, what changed his mind? What made him a restorationist? And what changed Aaron's mind? Because in this meeting, Aaron is the one who stands up and says no.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Historia is actually like, yeah, I'm on board. I'll inherit the Beast Titan, and like knowing what that means, that she'll be death sentencing herself to die at a young age,
Yeah.
and that she'll have to breed a bunch. You know what I mean? Will whether she wants to or not. So she says yes to that. Sasha's in her head thinking like, Jesus, are we just gonna go back to? So is this the only way out? Just generations of people inheriting.
Or Hanji. Hanji says that.
Yeah, sorry. Did I say Sasha?
Yeah, Sasha.
Yeah. Hanji says, like, so we're just going to go back to this. We're going to have generations of people pass down Titans. Eren is the voice of reason here, more or less saying, like, if that's your plan, you can shove it.
Yeah, not good.
But
and it calls out Zeke, too. He's like, like, not good.
But clearly something changes for him. Like,
yeah.
Because he ends up forcing their hand to go get Zeke. So, I don't know. I mean, this part was well handled, I thought. Like, here's a plan, here's an idea. It's fucking bleak, but like maybe that would do the job. But our protagonists say, no, fuck that noise. Mm-hmm. So all of that played well for me, but clearly something has happened to change Eren's mind.
Yeah, which I think is probably going to be sooner than later.
You mean the reveal? We're going to find out what changes his mind? I hope so.
I think because we're probably going to see them back in Marley shortly.
Yeah.
I think that is probably where the change is going to go. It sounds like he went rogue at the last minute.
I think so. I think he went rogue and maybe touched, maybe him and Zeke ended up getting moments together.
Yeah.
And had some half-brotherly bonding time. However, before the next thing I want to mention, though, is like my favorite moment of the episode. The Hanji, we return to Hanj and Eren in that cell. And he has these lines about, I ate the Warhammer Titan. There's no prison deep or strong enough that can hold me.
Yeah.
He actually calls her too. He's like, what exactly, Hanji, what is it you can actually do?
Yeah. He's throwing his weight around. As, like he has the weight to throw around. It's not bullshit.
He calls her. He says, you can't kill Zeke either. You definitely can't kill me. So what's your play? He literally says, "You have something up your sleeve. Now's the time." Yeah. And the one thing I thought they handled really well was him like standing up and kind of towering over her, because they mentioned throughout the rest of the episode, and it's shown that they're all growing up. You know what I mean? And he looks bigger now.
I was going to say, like in that scene, like he seems like taller than he's ever been. Like he was, like you said, he was actually towering over her. Yeah. And he's in the cage. That's the crazy thing. Like, it's what is that from The Dark Knight? There, you're trapped in here with me, or no, I'm trapped in here, or whatever. However he goes, but like, he's in the cage and he's the one calling the shots in that scene. It's crazy. Yeah. Like, yeah,
I was really surprised he went as far enough to actually grab her and like bring her in close and like threaten a transformation for a sec.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I was like, wow, Eren is really fallen from grace.
Yeah, ease up, compadre. Jesus. I don't know. Maybe he's got some silver bullet of information that once we all learn.
God, I hope so. This would be more bleak than the show needs to be if it just reveals that Eren's just like, I'm the new big bad. That would suck.
I don't think he'll go the big bad way. I think, if we're making like long-standing predictions, like it just seems like as a result of all the trauma that he's been through, maybe he's just not, it feels like he's at risk of kind of losing his humanity a little bit.
Yeah.
And that he has become more objective, mission-oriented than anything else. And he can tell himself, like, oh, it's all about, making sure that we're safe and that we're free, but it doesn't really... He seems to be getting further and further away from that right now. Mm-hmm. Was that your favorite part of the episode?
That's the thing. There's no one moment in the episode that, like, I kind of... There's no, like, stellar moment. There's one moment that I laughed out loud, and it was probably some of the best comedy in this show yet, which is coming later. But
I wonder if it's the same thing as mine. But
I don't know. Like the scene we are about to talk about was, it stood out the most for me. I think in the episode is like kind of because that's like that's been the big theme this season is like history's repeating itself. Like war is just like war is war, like but like the talking heads, like this just goes to show that not much has truly changed in parody.
Super interesting. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, what you're alluding to is we were in this house and back in the present day, and it's revealed couple things are revealed real quick. That it seems like high up military people are all having a dinner. They're all getting drunk. There's one guy in particular is
We've
mouthing
been
off.
seeing these guys this episode and last episode as well. They've been giving these guys like momentary screen time.
Yeah.
Showing them up as like I don't know if they're
The
like
brass, the political power at play. Yeah, they're kind of like the faceman idiot government people.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't deserve character names. I don't know.
A couple of these guys are freaking idiots. There seems to be one guy that's standing out. Obviously, we don't know a name, but like just a bunch of fucking fools.
So
like
the reason we're saying that they seem to be not much has changed is because this guy literally says like this Historia is a queen more or less in name only. We hold the real power. I'm curious to see how that plays. Like if these guys make a move on behalf of Paradis that not everybody else agrees with out of their own self-interest, but TBD. But the bomb here is that Historia is pregnant.
Yeah, didn't see that coming at all.
No, not at all. Do you think we know the father?
I was thinking back to that because we had, I think it would have been Season 3, Part 1. They kind of show, like, there's a couple episodes kind of going back to, Historia's backstory of her on that farm. Mm-hmm. And I think the only person of note you see is, like, Fritz. He comes and goes every now and then. And then there's, like, her sister.
The one that, like, actually inherited the Founding Titan, but Aaron's father killed, right?
Yes. So, there's... Thinking back like to that moment, I honestly like they make reference to like throwing the rocks at her, and it's weird it's so weird they had those details too. Like they're talking about wonder
did they maybe like show this in more detail in the manga and this would be paying tribute to that, or maybe they showed it back in those flashbacks in season 3 and we're just not remembering. Very weird though. I looked around, I didn't look too closely.
That's the thing.
I couldn't find any mention of a boy. I don't know.
This whole episode is rife with moments that you just cannot go online and check because you will get burned on.
Yeah,
it's such minute, in-depth questions you have that you're bound to get spoiled. So you just kind of had to eat this one and like move on.
If you had to guess, do you think it's a character we know, or do you think it's a new character?
I don't think the father is of note.
You think it's an unimportant detail?
I think this is a strategic moment, and like they've alluded to that. I think the one drunk, he makes a reference to like, and that's the thing, they referencing Yelena. They're like, she's crazy, but like she's smart, and she, Yelena probably told her, if you're pregnant, you can't inherit the beast and all this and that. So I don't know, because like there's a couple shots of Historia now currently pregnant, and I don't know, like. They could just be expressing that she's pregnant, clearly probably at the end of the pregnancy, and she's tired, but she also kind of looked dead in the eyes. Like she looks she looks troubled. So I could be wrong that, Yelena last minute and like look at the, and even Nicola, like the moments, they're very good with introducing new characters and in small little moments accrued up to like really make them something of note. So we could get a father, or we could get like a face, and go forward with it. But
interesting to see where that goes, if anywhere. So do you think she's making a play? Do you think she's trying to delay the inheriting the beast, or do you think it's a genuine love story? Because this complication is out of left field.
Yeah, and her being, because they kind of show her face, like there's clearly a moment where like she's like going to the barn, the guy's like working in the barn, and it kind of cuts to her face, and it doesn't seem like a look of like, oh hey, I love you. I always thought like it seemed like she was on like she was doing a task. So my hunch is I think her and Aaron are kind of in on what's going on.
Interesting.
And like maybe Aaron's trying to save face. It could be Aaron and Historia don't trust Zeke.
Yeah.
Maybe, I was thinking too, like, what if Levi's in on it and just kind of playing like the tough ass on Aaron and all this stuff?
Maybe.
It's hard to tell. Like we had mentioned this last week. Like we're in absolute dark waters right now this show. Like it could go, and
it's fun though.
It is fun, and this episode is revealed like they're just throwing more pitches at us. Like it could be red herring. So that's the thing.
Good point. It could be. Certainly could be.
So it's really hard. It's, you don't want to overanalyze too much and get like, in the minutia of it. But this dinner scene was very interesting.
It was. So is the next line that this guy says, right? The bring another bottle, Marlian.
Yeah, and this, I didn't get this at all. I think Nico is up to some stuff.
Yeah. So the bring another bottle, Marlian thing, I thought was just like it was very apt, right? Like you could absolutely switch that last word with Eldian, and this would be taking place in Marley. Mm-hmm. They have captives from the other side of the sea, and they're treating them like dirt. And that did not take long at all. They've had these, at this point, they've had these captives for 2 years, a year, not even, maybe about a year. And they've got them, being sous chefs and fetching them drinks, and they're referring to them by their race. Not a great look.
So was Nicola, was he not rounded up with the rest of the Marlins?
So he was. So if you remember last week, so he was rounded up, but he seemed to either be sympathetic or be willing to just work, right? He said they let me work. So because he was the chef, right?
No. But like at the end of last episode, when Pixis they have them corralled, they have guns drawn on them.
Oh, was he just
like,
not round? Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering. Like, is this before or after that? Like,
I think that's after. So the question is, did they not throw him in a cell?
Well, maybe it was only the ones that went over back to Marley.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is, because he would have stayed back.
Yeah, he's been here the whole time. He's trusted. He probably cooks a lot of meals for everybody.
Yeah,
maybe he's playing the long con.
Do you think he is, though? On what side? Because
I have no idea. But it just felt like a weird moment. He's like, is it this wine? Like, I think all the wine thing, and I have a long game theory about this wine thing.
Okay.
Do you want me to skip and just tell you what I think the wine is about?
No, hit me.
Okay, so at first glance, I think the wine and the fact that Niccolo has it at the ready, all that really is meant to show you is he's suggesting, or the show is saying he's listening to everything going on up there. Because he already has the wine ready. But the second thing, my long shot here, is the episode ends. It closes on Zeke and Levi in the woods, and Levi's soldiers are all
drinking wine. I did notice that,
and it looks like the exact same label. And this could be, just a fun, look at fucking all these parody people, getting carried away with the booze, or it could be like, maybe they're going to be incapacitated in some way. Niccolo's obviously probably has some remaining loyalty to Marley. He's not exactly being treated great. He has tons of motivation to turn on them. So maybe this incapacitates the soldiers that are with Levi, leaving him alone with Zeke. I don't know.
That would be interesting.
But again, to what end, right? Like, what would Zeke get out of these people being sidelined? What is his goal? There's a lot of question marks there, but I did think, like, we have Niccolo with this ominous wine moment, and we cut with tension and wine. Could be a coincidence, could not. I don't know.
I love that, actually. That's I'm going to be keeping a really close eye next episode for sure.
Yeah, I'm awesome. It's true.
Yeah. So then we, the railroad.
Yeah, we go. So after this, we tune into an episode of Dr. Stone where everyone is building a railroad.
Loving it. Side note, loving season 2.
Yeah, I just got caught up. But I was like, oh, look, like they're building new technology. This is like Senku's going to come walking in.
Yeah.
And be like,
10 billion% going to work.
So animation's all over the fucking place in this episode, or in this scene, but whatever.
Wow, steel beams, Dave.
Steel beams. It was neat seeing Mikasa like just casually walk by carrying like fucking 8 of them. Did you catch that?
It was so funny. Leanna was beside me and she's like, was that one person carrying all that stuff?
I was like, yeah, but she's an Ackerman. You wouldn't get it.
And I was just like, I don't know. And then I watched it. I watched it a couple more times. I was like, oh yeah, it does look just like her holding all those steel beams.
Did you? I've watched it twice, but the second time I just skimmed through it. But I caught a pretty funny beat of Armin and Sasha in this scene. Did you catch that?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
So it's in the exposition moment. It's right as the scene starts. I think it's like Jean and Connie talking about why they're here.
Okay.
They're just like bringing you up to speed. Like, oh, Aaron, this guy said we could build our muscles and help the mission at the same time. This fucking guy, right? Captain America over here. As they're doing that, Sasha is in the background, and you can hear them yelling a bit, but it's like indistinguishable. Sasha's still alive at this moment, and she's drinking all the water, and Armin is chasing her, trying to make her not drink all the water.
Oh, I completely missed that.
And then it cuts to they're all dying of heat, and the water jugs are empty.
I saw that, her like hiding in the shade, and like Armin's kind of like fishing. I think it's Armin is kind of like fishing through supplies.
Yeah, but that was like a kind of a funny moment.
But yeah, so this is my favorite. Like we were talking about I'm wondering if it's the same moment as me, but when Levi makes the joke of
everybody
growing up, I laughed out loud so fucking hard. Like it just out of nowhere, but like such a genuine moment. And then later in the episode, I noticed when I had watched it again, when they're on the harbor, they talk about the reveal of the harbor, and Yelena like, oh, Aaron, nice to finally see you. It's been a year. Mm-hmm. And Levi like cuts in front of her. I was like, oh yeah, he is really short compared to everyone. Mm-hmm. They set it up earlier in the episode. I don't know, really funny.
Did. Yeah, no, I laughed at that too. Yeah, they did a good job of aging the cast here, I thought. Yeah. Despite it looking weird in parts. And then Hanj breaks the news that Hizuru is not up to be like their mediator for the whole world.
And this is where I want to talk to you, Dave. Right here.
Hit me up.
This is how Willie knows about the parody spies. This is Azuma Bito not getting her way. And taking all the information she has learned and all the meetings and the more or less like probably Zeke's plans, and this is her going to him because there's moments of her talking to Willie as a confidant. This is guaranteed how Willie knows what he knows. Absolutely.
I would not put those things together.
I would bet all my chips on that's what happened.
So you're saying that Hizuru, Azuma Bito, they want to monopolize the resources on Parody Island. Hanj says no, and it's at the end of the scene. Hanj says basically, "Let's do it ourselves, right?
Yep.
Let's get to know everybody." So with that decision, Hizuru is pissed off, and she goes to Willie. Interesting,
because there's two moments in the episode they make reference that Hizuru is not in a good way.
Yep.
They are like financially, I don't know if they say financially in ruin, but they say like they've never bounced back from the Great Titan War.
Yeah, they took a big L there apparently. And obviously they're very intrigued by the idea of they said something along the lines of like restoring our kingdom to its former glory or our nation to its former glory.
And like they really wanted this resource. So I bet you this was, hey Willie, wage war, they have all this stuff. Because who would have known about that resource other than at that point than Azuma Bito?
Yeah.
So I guarantee
the resource that didn't exist till this episode. But
yeah.
So, but
that's what I'm saying. Like it kind of feels like kind of just some back context to like their meetings and all that. I think she's just a snake, and she's trying to, I think she's trying to get her goals completed in lieu of someone else.
Yeah, but she could be playing politics. That does make sense, right? If it just doesn't work out for her, that would perhaps give her some reason to cash in her chips with Marley and provide some meaningful intel.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. But the second I saw it, I was like, wow. There's no way she was a true ally of the gang.
Hanj has this other great line where, she says, first of all, Hizuru does not want to mediate between you and the world or us and the world. And she says the world wants parity to be the root of all evil. It makes things simpler. And I thought that was just like a good moment in the show. Like they kind of did a good job of showcasing that a little bit during Willie's play back in episode 2 or 3, where they, you have all these people gathered around internationally, and they all agree that the Parody Island, it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And it just sort of made sense to me. I was like, yeah, like if there was a place where we could demonize an entire continent and just, if everything was their fault, life might be easier. Yeah. You wouldn't have to think as much. And anyway, just kind of, it makes sense. That level of like reductionist thinking makes sense. It
But
makes perfect sense.
Now that I'm thinking back, I genuinely believe there was a moment this season, very early on, where they make a point of the resources that Parody has.
They do. That's true. They do say it was resource rich, but I guess I just thought they meant like typical stuff. I didn't think like.
I think that like
iceberg
maybe
stone, is it like a new element that has never been heard of?
I don't know, but I think they kind of set it up. Again, it was very clumsy, the reveal, but and also too, like, did Zeke just give her stolen like property of the Marleyan government, or was that like an extra one he had? That was another thing too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, weird moments. Like, it's so strange because the pacing and kind of the back and forth moments through the season has been so dead on. This is the first time where it's just like, I don't know.
Well, when you're always on target and you finally miss, it's like
it sticks out. Yeah,
yeah, like a
that's true.
bit of a sore thumb. Okay, so that's more or less that. I mean, what we take out from this is that we struck out with Hizuru, and the scouts are going to try and introduce themselves, and maybe that begins with going to Marley for some recon. And I think we can assume that that's what we'll see soonish, or at least maybe that's how we ended up there. The next moment in this episode is everybody postulating about who gets Aaron's Titan.
Yeah, that was a hard one to watch. Lot going on there.
It was
also
good though. No. Hit me up.
It made sense. Like I find they all do an accurate job of like showing the character qualities, like their flaws in that moment.
Yep.
They have, Mikasa's like, blind, steadfast protection of Eren. They have Jean's arrogance. They have kind of Sasha's like aloofness, and then Connie, like both like Connie and Sasha's like aloofness of like the situation. And but like it's a good scene. Like it makes sense. Like that is their characters. It's their defining, but also like their flaw, which is like any good character. Like Jean is a good leader and is going to go on forward because of his flaws. And Mikasa's the same. Well, Mikasa's a little different because like they make a very clumsily mention of like we don't know the power of the Ackermans. And I was like, well, anyway, we knew they were one of the families for sure.
If anyone's kind of due for some fleshing out, it's Mikasa's character.
Yeah.
Just as someone that's become so central, her key defining character trait is just protect Eren.
Yeah.
And it needs a little bit more than that, I think, especially as they all age up.
Yeah.
Like even, as this scene ends, we go to this, I don't know if they're in a hotel or where they're all talking, but they're talking again, more or less questioning Eren's mental state. This is like the final scene of the show, more or less, or of the episode. And, how far gone he seems to be, and was that really Eren? Why did he change his mind? So it
that was a great scene. But that was a great scene. I think comparing the two of them, I found the wagon one, it's the same conversation being rehashed like years later.
Yeah. All I meant was like, even in this scene at one point, someone's like, what if we have to take the Titan from Eren? And again, like the only time Mikasa really perks up, she's like, I won't let that happen.
Yeah.
Like,
the one thing I
just want more.
Yeah, the one thing I wish is Jean. There was a moment where Jean was going for it. Like it was like maybe with me personally, but like he even goes to the point of saying like, or I think Mikasa makes the point of saying, like he needed us. That's why he did what he did. And like Jean's like, it's just I wish he had said like, no, Mikasa, like he used us. Like this wasn't like us coming to save him because we're his friends. This was like him abusing our relationship. And he's like, he needed you to get him out of that situation, and like look what he made Armin do. I wish they had taken that a little further, and it would have made that whole scene like a little.
I agree, because in that moment you get a whiff of that, right? Like you get Mikasa kind of giving him carte blanche. It's like, oh, it's because he cares about us. That's why he's so angry. It's like, okay, well, maybe, but also like, look what fucking happened.
Yeah.
And we get a bit of that, but I agree. They, could have had a little bit more.
It was close. Like Jean, he took the baton in that moment, and I just wished it had been taken a little further. Armin was surprisingly quiet in that scene. I was expecting a little more out of him because they've definitely kind of, maybe it's just the way I viewed it, but they've definitely showed that Armin is kind of losing faith in Eren a little bit.
They did last episode, right? When he was talking to Annie, talking about,
Yeah.
I thought I knew him better than anybody.
And then in this moment, it kind of just seems like, Armin wasn't kind of just used like a weapon.
Yeah, I think he's dejected. I think they all are. I think it's
Yeah.
good, though, and important that we are being shown that the rest of the scouts are about as troubled as the audience right now.
Oh, yeah. Which is, yeah.
Things aren't looking great. It's very ominous. I'm very curious about his motivation, what his next step is, and how the fuck this all works with Zeke.
And before we go any further, I do want to throw Eren a bone here. I've been a little hard on him this season lately, but there's and again, a really bad moment, but they do reveal that like Mikasa and Armin were not in the room when Eren found out about Sasha, and we knew they weren't in the room, but we find out they didn't know his reaction, and like you could tell Jean was clearly keeping that from them.
Yeah.
Because Jean's like, Connie, don't.
Yeah.
And Connie's like, no, fuck this. Like, he wasn't crying. Like, he didn't like scream out. Like, he laughed. And like, in the context, I do think Connie was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he might have taken Eren's response like the wrong way. I think he took it like this, it sounds bad saying this, like the most sensitive way possible.
No, I agree.
Eren was definitely like in pain in that moment.
Yeah, he ended
he's laughing,
being upset. After he laughed, he kind of broke, it felt like.
Yeah, but like it's a funny moment. Like you hear, it's so funny, when someone passes and you think back to like a silly moment that they did. Like you are sad, but you laugh at that moment. Like it was him remembering Sasha, and I do think in that moment it was not like Connie threw him under the bus, because Connie's mad obviously because like him and Sasha were so close. But like I said, I just want to throw Eren a bone here. I do think his reaction was like realistic for the scenario, but it also kind of felt like Connie was weaponizing that against Mikasa and Armin.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It feels like they're all in the same spot in that they have a lot of doubt going on with where he's at, and it's just in varying degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think that scene ends on Armin being like, maybe we're gonna have to give the Founding Titan to someone we can trust.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of a big moment from him at the end, and then we get that last little scene with Levi and Zeke with the wine. But that is like literally a 5-second scene. Like it's like a quick pan and then
very quick. And you know what, Dave? You know what gives some water to your theory?
Hit me up.
We get less than 5 seconds with Nicola.
Yeah.
And then we get kind of like the wine in that scene going to the wine in the scene of Zeke and Levi, and it's quick and in and out, just like the previous one. I think there's something there, man. I genuinely think something will come of that.
You can't hide from me, man. I see this, man. Yeah. Okay. So that's more or less all of the episode. Did you watch the stinger or the preview for next week?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shortest one. Yeah. They keep getting shorter and shorter.
They show you less and less. I think, this wasn't like a crazy prediction, but we did say maybe at one point Gabby will have to learn a little bit about where she is and about the people that are on this place, or in this on this island. And I think it's because the first words out of the preview are that Gabby and Falco escape prison, and they're
receive help.
I think that's Sasha's dad.
Oh.
I think,
that'd be pretty heavy-handed if that's the case.
Yeah.
Wow. But did you catch that last little moment of that? I think I think Flock is being assigned to hunt them down.
Yes, because the episode, I remember it's called Deceiver, I think.
Oh, I didn't catch the episode name.
I think it is, but it stops on a close up on Flock.
Yeah.
That's the last frame. And if anyone's going to like hunt them down with impunity, even though they're kids, definitely Flock.
He was ready to throw them out of that plane or the blimp, Yeah, he was
not ideal. The episode doesn't really show us much else though. Like we don't know if we're going to go back into the past. We don't know. We see nothing about Zeke or Levi or Eren or any of those big players. So maybe we do get a one-off episode of just like Gabby and Falco trekking through the forest with Falco on their tail, or they split it up like they have been. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, in that's the nice thing about us doing, doing this podcast is looking back, the nice little moments. I do think I have a lot more respect for the episode now after having talked with you about it for about an hour. It's the moment. The episode is by no means bad. I think it is a great episode. It's I think it's just like creative choices is what's weird about it. But like the content makes sense. Again, the word of the week is clumsiness. But I don't know. It was a good one, and I do hope they kind of tighten it up a little bit going forward. But no, it's a good one.
Maybe and seasons 1 through 3 have definitely had episodes where it feels like they had to put stuff in. And it just doesn't quite fit sometimes in the flow of how you want to structure a season. So every now and then you get like just kind of a weird episode.
There was a couple episodes in season 2 I found that were like that. That kind of just stuck out.
Maybe a lot of these things are setups, or that like there are important details buried in here, like the fact that Historia is pregnant, Mikasa's wristband tattoo thing, the resource dump. All these things that like maybe they just have to be on the page because they're going to mean something later.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think I'm interested to see what happens. I'm very excited for next week's episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think we can leave it here.
Right on.
Cool, guys. Thank you for listening. We say this every week, but it's so cool to watch the podcast grow every week. If you're listening to this on a platform that, has likes and shares and comments, please feel free to do so. Continue to support the show. It's awesome interacting with you guys every week. And we will be back this time next week and every week until part 1 is done. And hopefully, maybe there'll be a part 2. If so, we'll cover that and maybe other stuff. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.